Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay, the money turnover. We've got, Gene has got $680, and it looks like it's all Board of Health plumbing permits. Are we okay with that one?
Yes.
I am. Lee and Herb?
Yes.
Yes, that's
Okay.
fine. Thank you.
Okay, next one. Well permit for 555 East State Street. I don't know anything about it. Lee, that has to be you. Has it already been cited and they're ready to go, or?
The homeowner cited it. It's a couple hundred feet away from his current SAS. He's trying to get the state to see if they'll give him a well because he believes it's salt contamination off 202. He's right across from Al French's greenhouse up there on the Belchtown line.
Okay,
So at this point in time, no activity.
okay. So are we gonna approve this permit?
He certainly has the distance away from his own SAS and his neighbors, so it's okay to go. Cushing was out there with him.
Okay, so we can approve that. The next one is a well permit for 58 Center Street, Cushing again. Are we
Yep,
set for this?
Everything is clean over there, yes.
Okay, are you set, Herb?
Yes.
Okay, next one is certificate of completion for 117 South Street. That one is a change. When I talked to Kapinski, what Kapinski was gonna do is give us the as-built, which he's apparently done, and he is going to submit a new drawing. But that one is one, Herb, that I don't think you know. We got out there, Lee called me. The water table was 2 feet higher than it was supposed to be. We had to lift the leach field up by 2 feet, and that required going with a pump. And it's installed. Lee, you saw the rest of the installation, is that correct?
Correct. Yeah, they did raise the system. They did put it in a pump chamber. Everything's working according to the components in the ground. I don't know if they pulled all the permits for electrical and plumbing because it was a change. It was supposed to be a gravity system, but I'm hoping that they followed the letter of the law and did their due diligence.
So do we have to hold that up until have Gene follow up to make sure that there's an electrical and plumbing permit with this?
Because of the change in design, I'm guessing we probably should to know that everything's been done properly, including the as-built.
Is that what you're thinking, Herb, too? Let's make sure that because there's electricity and plumbing involved here, that we make sure the right permits are out before we wash our hands of it?
Sounds reasonable to me, Dick.
Okay, let's do that. Gene, I don't have any information on this one. It's the 2020 installer and hauler permit for complete septic. Is that just
yes, that's just the it's a renewal. They get them every year.
I'm okay with it. How about Lee and Herb? You okay?
Sure.
Okay. The next one is a Title V for 317 Bachelor Street. Julia Held. It's a conditional pass. Is the system not being used, Lee? Is that what the issue is?
Someone bought the house. They were revamping it, and whoever it was passed away prematurely. So the house is still never been occupied probably for going on better part of 3 years now.
Okay,
So it's for sale again. It's a fairly new system in the backyard, a raised pump system, but no one's lived there for a number of years.
So we just have to receive it as a conditional pass? Is that what we're doing?
I believe that's the right path to go
I
down.
think so too. What do you think, Herb?
Received, yes.
Yeah. Then next one, that, you know what? When we get on this next group, there's 4 of them that are really fast. And why don't we take them out of order and just get them done? The first one is Town of Granby mask regulation. I just put it there because if we're gonna get rid of our effort, it has to be at our meeting. The lawyer cautioned me that we can't just say we're not gonna do it and just drop it unless we say it. So I offer we should just say, okay, we're going with the state regulation and that's it.
That's
Okay.
certainly my sense of things.
And you, Lee?
Yes,
Okay.
please.
Okay. Quickies are resolution of the trash issue at 161 Kendall. I did call Chris Martin up and ultimately I said, you know what, I'll make the call. It turns out I know the guy, he does work for me. And it was just a bad misunderstanding that the owner thought the trash guy was at war with him. And once I explained that this was to minimize their contact with the virus, he was fine. And in fact, he asked me, what's he supposed to do with the 3 weeks of trash that he still had? And Chris Martin actually dealt with the trash company to do a separate pickup. So it would be done. So that's done. The next one was the mask use at all power. And again, in fact, I told Herb that he had such good luck with the phone. And I said, you know what, I'll give all power a call and explain to him the situation. And the guy says, you know what, I'll make sure everybody does this the right way. He said, thank you. And I told him that there would be fines involved. He said, I'll be happy to make sure that works. The last of that group is septic repairs and high water table soils with UMass testing being down. The issue there is Sheehan asked me a question and sent in a note that in areas where they typically, the Lee, where you guys would go in and couldn't do a perk test because the water's up in it, in the soil, the procedure is typically to take a soil sample and take it to UMass to do the analysis and say what the soil is like. And so UMass is closed, and Bob said that the Quabbin Health District is, in fact, under the advice of Charlie Kanicki, has said that they think that the engineer and the Board of Health member have enough experience to be able to tell the class of the soil, and they just, once they do that, since there's only 3 classes, and once they do that, they just took the slowest rate, and that's what they did until this gets over. And Bob asked if we would be willing to do the same thing. My feeling is it's on a repair that needs to get done, that's the smart way to do it. What do you guys think?
Yeah, that makes perfect sense right now.
How are you with it, Herb?
I'm okay. There's a lot of extraneous noises and music and all sorts of things coming through on this line.
Yeah, the one that just went, I shut my phone off, but my wife's phone is in another part of the room on the charger, and it looks like hers rang, and I can, if it happens again, I'll shut hers off too. But hers isn't the only one. That's the one you just heard. Yeah, that noise that we're hearing now is not mine. So, now let's go back. First one, Police Department authority to assist the Board of Health during this, the violations for masks and procedures with Corona issues. I did take the sample letter Al sent out and, modified it. Herb, you marked it up. So number one, I think that's the first thing. Do we want to do that? And I think we should authorize the police to be our agent. I'm guessing, I think you guys do too. What do you think, Herb and Lee?
Well,
That
if
makes
we
perfect
don't
sense.
do it,
Oh, go
we're
ahead.
just a paper tiger. So I really think we need Kevin and the rest of the department to help us if we want to enforce any of this. Otherwise, it's not enforced.
I agree. What do you think, Lee?
Yeah, because there's,
I think we
there's
lost.
too much
oh,
going on without
Okay,
without some extra
then if we
help.
agree
It's
with
just-
that-
it's just overwhelming right now.
So we will appoint the police department individuals as our agents. I did give a sample. As I said, I modified that letter. Herb chopped it up, not chopped it up, he cleaned it up. And I'm in perfect support of that. If that's the case, I'll sign it we'll have Gene sign my name to it and we'll send it out if that's acceptable to Herb and Lee.
Do we need a motion?
Yeah, I guess we should. Does someone move that we appoint the police department as our agents through this Corona issue as it says in that letter? Is there a motion for that?
So moved.
Second?
Second, that, yes.
In favor? Aye.
yes.
By the
Herb,
way,
you?
Dick,
Thank you.
yes,
Yes.
I'm voting yes. By the way, you said I cleaned up the letter. I just want you to know that in my baseball playing days, I was the cleanup batter.
Okay. Okay. So then, Gene, you can send that out with my signature as it's written.
Okay.
I've got two of these that are the same, I think, as the COVID-19 contact clearance and then early return to work for healthcare workers. I guess we can tackle it here if we want at this point of the agenda. The issue now is even different than when I asked to put this on the agenda. There's, as of the 4th of May, CDC has another policy for healthcare workers, and essentially what it says, if you're a healthcare worker, I'm just, hang on for a second. I had someone that was waiting and it looks like I lost them, but okay. That they've now said that if you're a healthcare worker, that if you are exposed, then if you are, I've been a strange thing here, guys, that I've got Al and Alex and Kevin all muted. And I'm,
Dick,
okay, I got Al fixed.
listen, hey, Dick, just I'll make it real easy. The reason that we've muted ourselves until we need to talk, that way there's no problem. You don't hear anything in the background. That's why you don't hear anything from us. We did it on purpose.
Oh, okay. So when I see that red thing, you guys did it. Okay, thank you. So,
Walk softly and carry a big stick.
Yeah. So currently, what this regulation says is if a healthcare worker gets exposed, they can continue working as long as they continue to look for symptoms and that they wear appropriate PPE. According to my source, the local Board of Health can say that they don't think that that is the way we want the healthcare people to work. So at this point, we can, that supposedly what was explained to me is that when people are on gurneys, in hospitals, not being able to see a healthcare worker and getting sicker and dying, it's better to have potentially sick people taking care of them than nobody taking care of them. And I guess if it were me laying there, I'd probably agree with that. But then from what I can see in our state and our area, that's not what's happening right now. So do we just want to go with what the CDC is recommending, or do we want to be telling apparently the way that you would stop it from happening is when Sharon Hart does the contact follow-up, she would be telling people you cannot go back to work until you're cleared by the 14 days. So what is our thought on it?
My thought, after listening to a Maven conference this morning that was convoluted almost beyond belief and complicated endlessly, that I really don't think I want to make policy or try to make policy which is different than accepted policy from the CDC and presumably the state. So I don't think we, as the Granby Board of Health, want to alter those guidelines.
Now, not all towns, in fact, what I was told, I believe that West Springfield and I can't remember, I think Chicopee does allow it, but at least on the old guidelines, at least 2 of the local cities didn't follow the CDC, but at least, what are you thinking, Lee?
I'm leaning towards Herb's comment. It's beyond our scope to take this on and do it properly.
I could support that.
Do
If
this
the 3 of us,
24.
yeah, I could support the stand as long as you guys feel that way. I could support that. So if that's the case, then we'll do nothing about that. We'll accept that as their guidance and we'll go with it. So that one's done. The next one is
Dick, this is perfect.
suggestions for. Yes, sir. Go ahead.
The person running the Maven discussion this morning about testing and who needed to be tested and how they needed to be tested and how often they needed to be tested and in what circumstances and with what tests went on for almost an hour and virtually incomprehensible without having a handout, without having written material to review and look. I think we would be foolish to try and do that.
Okay, so we're just saying we are taking no action on that, and it's just what the CDC advises and the state supports, we are also. So our next item is suggestions that Chris Martin asked us for suggestions on restrictions for the use of the parks. I once again took some stuff that Gene was able to find from Northampton, who just opened their parks. So I looked at Granby and modified it, and I sent it out as saying, here's some ideas. Herb, you once again cleaned it up, and I certainly could support what you said. And Lee, what is your thought?
Yeah, I'm reading Herb's review of this, and everything looks to be really well thought through. You know, with the exceptions and so forth, it appears to be as much as we can reasonably do.
So, Gene, do you have?
Well, so here's
and
another
Herb,
question.
Yeah.
Is this possibly going to be another arena on a drive-by per se that the police will be observing as well as the brick and mortar locations?
I would expect that. What will be interesting, that it isn't clear to me right now whether Chris will be saying we agree with you or don't agree with you, and then whether Chris in fact would like the Board of Health to put the regulations on the park use. So I don't know that yet.
Yeah.
I think Lee brings up
Chris, at this
an
point,
excellent point. Lee brings up a good point. And if we have our police department as our agents, I think the parks would also be part of purview.
I think so. In my view, that's true. But since Chris actually asked us for some recommendations, I'm wondering if the right step right now is to pass it on to Chris and see what he thinks. Because I do have an issue when Lee asked that, and Herb, you say that. If this isn't our regulation, if it's just something that the select board chooses to say, then in reality, the police wouldn't be doing our work, I think, unless we said, if Chris said, yeah, we should do that, and let's formalize it and have the Board of Health do this. I'd suggest that the right way to do it is to let's send this back to Chris. I'll give Chris a call. Maybe he's going to end up, maybe he'll go to his board or whatever. And I would suggest that that's the way to handle it.
Sure.
Okay, then I will do that. I'll give Chris a call tomorrow.
What is all the extraneous noise on this?
I don't know, but I've got a thing that flashed on this screen, on my screen as the host, and it said that the internet connection is unstable. So maybe we're getting bleed from somebody else. The noise isn't, if we ask the people here that are on with us, is anybody the source of this? Could you just tell us?
I can tell you right now, I can tell you it's the phone number that ends in 2143. If they mute their phone, that problem will go away.
If I mute them,
That's not my cell.
is that you, Lee?
It's not me.
2143?
That's my phone.
Well, I can,
I'm 2143. But what I'm going to be doing in
Okay,
about
it's-
2 minutes is I'm probably going to turn my phone off and run home and go back onto my computer. The store is closed, so it's pretty quiet in here right now.
I don't hear the noise from that phone anymore. So I hate that if you leave, Lee, we're gonna be out of business for 15 minutes. So the next one,
No, I'm.
That I
if I
have-
do it, it's going to be a straight shot.
Herb, what do you think? I hate to just keep moving through this without Lee.
He's on his cell phone.
I'm still
Let's
with you.
keep going.
Okay, okay. The next one I have is Alphabet Soup request to use bottled water. And I guess I sent the thing out to you guys that I was, to make this meeting move quickly. I took a shot at trying to get the guts of our action in front of us so we could work on it quickly. But I talked about this option with Greg Briggs on Dollar General. And he pointed out that this is no joke when you end up giving this water out of one of these containers to the public, that you have to, there's a whole big plan that's required to how do you clean it, who ends up changing the bottles, how long do you let the bottles stay if they're not being used very much, how do you make sure little kids, well, in this case, it was anybody, gets near that nozzle, and as I thought about it, if you look at what was driving this, was the owner of this business said she was renting the business and all she had was one sink in the whole place, and it was in the bathroom, and they were using it for washing their hands. I notice now that they're also using it for cleaning the buckets for cleaning the building. However, after I went through it and said, why would we do something like this when what seemed to be a very straightforward solution is hire a plumber and put a drinking water fountain in and be done with this forever? And so,
Yeah.
Or go to Costco and buy 5 flats of bottled water.
but I'm sure there's a whole mess that goes through that with how do you stop the kids from sharing their water and my feeling would be that we ask her to do with this in a hard plumbing way, not doing it with a thing that's very procedural. I can't believe it. It's not up to me to decide what's economic or not, but I don't think that this is very different than going to a restaurant who's leasing a building and saying, you're responsible for the ceiling and you're responsible for the floor. And when it's time to replace it, you have to do it. But what are you guys thinking? What is our, I guess our answer has to be, are we going to allow it or are we not going to allow it?
These things probably exist in thousands, if not tens of thousands of locations. Do problems come up with them? Is this an issue, or are we making it an issue?
I have no idea other than what Greg told me, the codes that he's dealing with are like, and And if it can be an issue, I don't understand why we would want to, instead of having a straightforward fix that never comes back again, why would we go with the one that heads towards procedural requirements instead of the root cause fix? That's all.
Is there an estimate of what this costs over a year versus having a plumber come in, just so we understand for alphabet soup what the financial issue is?
Actually, when you ask that question, Herb, what if our approach is to ask her at our next meeting to come and instead of dealing with emails and short little letters, for us to be able to talk to her, to request that she just talk to us and find out what's driving this? Because I don't know that. You just asked the question, Herb. I have no idea the answer.
Yeah. I have no feel for it at all, Dick, what it costs, but I suspect that it's not cheap to
I
have
suspect
the
that too.
bottled water brought in.
Is this an issue of public water supply as well, or is that something different here?
I don't know. That's interesting too. So maybe then I'd offer that the appropriate thing is to try to talk to the owner directly and see what's happening. What do you guys think?
Well, it's been going on she's been there for a number of years, so I don't understand why it's crunch time. Something
And at
must have
this point,
changed.
she's not going to have children there until what, the 19th of June at least. So if we just ask her to get on the agenda for the next meeting, it looks like it doesn't hurt anybody.
Makes sense.
Do you guys support that?
Sure. Yes.
Yeah, but I think Lee's question was right on. If she's been there for years, what's going on now? Why is now different?
Yeah, and we don't know. We don't know, but she can certainly shed light on it.
Yeah, she just stated that the state licensor needs a letter stating that the board approves the use of the bottled water. That's all I know.
Is that I wonder if that's to circumvent the public water supply.
Yeah, because I'm just looking at the list of public water supplies, and 55 Taylor Street is listed as Marfran's, but they've been gone for a long time. Then it was Head Start.
Yep. So, I don't know if it's our venue or not to be concerned or to get involved with the financials of an operation, but my guess is that at the end of the day, that's what's going on with this location, whether or not it's public water supply or not. I don't know how many children she services in that spot. And if so, is that what this is all about? The maintenance of the drinking water that they have on site? There's got to be something deeper than we're being allowed to know.
Okay, so Gene, if you can get in touch with her and ask her to get on our next agenda.
Sure.
Dollar General is our next one in the ponds. We have there a couple different things happen. One is that we do have the letter from the building inspector, who was kind of soliciting our help, and Herb, you had sent out a comment that you were concerned that we could easily get over our heads with this thing, and it turns out that there's, according to the building inspector, he's had some pressure from above, non-town above, Boston above, saying that he's got to stay out of the Board of Health area, that if he's got building code problems, deal with building code problems, that his job is not the Board of Health. They're probably right. However, so he told me that he is going to deal with the fact that the people that supplied him with drawings did not say there were going to be 4 ponds on that property. Nor did, as it turns out, did we see 4 ponds on the property. However, in the meantime, Gene sent out a letter from the Healy's, who I did talk to. They are the people to the west. And they're asking us to look at this as a possible public health nuisance issue. And I don't know, as we do that, if you look at the nuisance regulations, that they're actually pretty powerful regulations. That's chapter 111, section 31. And it looks like 122. I'm looking at it in front of me. And if we determine that that's a public health nuisance, then we can actually order the problem to be abated. And it's a very, since I've been on the Board of Health, we've only used this a couple different times, but it's a powerful regulation. So from our standpoint, do we act on this right now? Do we, the building inspector told me he's being pushed to give a certificate of compliance or occupancy. He's given a temporary one. The people from the engineer I deal with from Bowler Engineering actually gave me a call saying, hey, things are going to change. There's going to be a lot of pressure to get a certificate of occupancy issued. I just want you to know that it's coming. But what do we want to do with this thing? My feeling is, as we've talked, we've got a couple letters, I think, that went out saying we think this is a health issue. What
It
are
is,
your thoughts?
it is a health issue, and it's a nuisance issue. And it's unreasonable for the Healy's to the west to either be flooded or intimidated by it.
Or in their case, they're saying what's going to happen when the mosquitoes start and whatever else is going to grow in that.
Well, that's what I'm implying when I say intimidated by it.
Yeah. I believe
Yeah,
it
they're
is
really
a
getting-
health nuisance.
I believe so too, and I believe the Healy's are trying to be pushed around by some corporate entity who is anxious to get a certificate signed off, and then the problem gets pushed onto someone else's shoulders, which is unfair for the Healy's. It's, by the goodness of a greater power that Dollar General is not located next to any one of us, we would not be very happy. I'm really disappointed in the way it turned out, as we probably all are, but this is our chance to try to right the wrong.
Yeah, I'm looking at it. I guess
Probably
I'm
entails
standing.
getting some engineering help.
Well, I would say that. In fact, that's what I was on the note that I was going to send to Greg. I was going to propose we sent. I was saying that what makes this really problematic is that this is not a project to fix it. It's a project first to figure out what it takes to fix it. So this is not an implementation project yet. And so we certainly, if we decide that we think it's a public health nuisance, we can tell them that they've got to come in. We could define it and saying there are 4 ponds that are, I'm calling it ponds, but they're depressions that have had water in them for certainly more than a couple months. And I'm thinking that if in 2 months it goes away because the water goes away, it's certainly going to be back. So it sounds like that Lee and Herb, you're agreeing with the Healy's request, and mine too, that I agree. I agree it's a public health nuisance, and we should tell them that we should tell I guess it's the owner is who we deal with, not the engineer anymore, that it needs to be abated. And then we should give them some kind of a timetable to get to us with a plan. Is that what Herb and Lee, that you would think?
He needs a new engineer or a different engineering company to come up with a solution here.
Yeah,
This
I agree.
is-
The peer review that we got from Ty and Bond didn't do much.
But again, that's how they go about doing that. I guess it's not ours, other than we're going to order them that they have to do it, right?
Agreed.
Of course, it will be very interesting, Dick, to see if a dictum comes west from Boston and says, "What are you guys doing?
Yeah.
Why are you harassing the Dollar General people?" I
So,
hope that's not the case, by the way. I
I hope
really
it's
hope
not the
that,
case either.
yes.
I hope it's not the case. And I think that from our standpoint, if you guys recall, the planning board sent us drawings of the site work. And we commented, we looked at them and said, this doesn't involve the Board of Health. But those drawings said nothing about having four ponds out there. So it's not something that we said, oh, we're into this and knew it was coming. This is definitely something other than what they propose. You want me to take a shot at a letter for since we've said we're going to call it a public health nuisance, we're going to say that it's at this meeting that we're going to require them to come up with a plan to abate it. So that action we're taking today. Then would you like me to take a shot at a draft of a letter going out? You guys can review it, and then Gene can send it out after it's been reviewed.
Yeah, my only question, because I'm not familiar at all with this avenue, is whether or not we're going to need council to proceed down this arena, because I'm guessing that the next communication that Herb was talking about is going to be from council towards us.
I certainly could get it to the point that we think it's ready for review of the council, and then send it to council to review.
I mean, I don't know that I'm correct in requesting that. I'm just wondering if that's where we're heading with this whole.
Okay, well, for sure, what we should be doing is making sure we cite the right regulation and go about it the right way. But certainly if we get the text the way we want to get it, and then let town council review it before we send it. But if the issue is today, we're saying it is a public health nuisance and we are going to cause it to be abated. You want me to try that?
Why don't you do a draft, Dick, and then send it to your number 4 batter?
Okay, I will do that.
Yep.
The next one that I have is guidance for summer schools and camps. I took that, Herb, that's, actually, I think that was a request that came into you from Nancy Jenks.
That is
And,
correct. This is from Nancy and the schools.
Right. That, as I'm listening to what's going on in the national media, I'm wondering if, and the options that they're talking about, how to, protect kids, and how do you tell who's sick, and how do you, there's a whole huge thing that's going on there. On the governor's now got I think a committee on how do you start to think about opening schools up. I'm not feeling good at all about advising Nancy that the board supports starting summer schools and summer camps until this stuff is resolved. What are your thinking, Lee and Herb?
Well, I think we would be out on a limb and looking foolish if we were to develop policy before it's developed by the governor and his minions in Boston. This doesn't make any sense for us to make a decision about this at the present time.
Lee, are you still there?
Well put, Herb. I'm with you. Yeah,
Okay.
Herb is spot on with this.
Yeah, I'm not absolutely in support of this. Herb, are you going to get back to Nancy directly, or are we going to send her a note saying that we're just not at the position, and the state isn't even at the position of being able to allow this in a safe way? Do we want to send a Board of Health letter to her, or do you just want to go with an informal letter, a conversation with Nancy?
Well, I think informal would be fine, but it would be better if it came from the Board of Health.
I can support that. You want to take a shot at this one?
Sure.
I'm getting too many assignments. Lee, are you in support of that?
I am.
Okay, so we'll do that. The next one that I have, but it looks like it's a double one, is that McDuffie. In fact, I thought I don't see him on a list yet, but I've had a couple conversations with Andrew Parker at McDuffie, and the last one. Pardon?
I said, I'm here, Dick. This is Andrew. I could not get the computer to work, but I did do the call in.
Okay, so I'm going to paraphrase what Andrew asked, and I'm going to tell you the board what I suggested, and at least it gives us something to start from. What Andrew asked is that they essentially wanted, McDuffie wanted a drive-by graduation. So very similar to what we're going to talk about in a second about the high school. But what I suggested to Andrew was that we would be they would need to be in a position that the faculty would be away from first each other, so that they had more than the 6 feet separation, that the headmaster or whoever is going to do this, whether it's Steve Griffin or whoever is going to give out diplomas. My suggestion was to do what Herb had suggested about the palms at Church of Christ, that the headmaster, I'll call, would put a diploma on a table, that someone in a car could take it off. So the procedure would be that the diploma went down, the headmaster would have gloves. He would move back to get the required spacing. The diploma would be taken and the car would drive off. What I suggested is that they be very careful so that you don't have people congregating before they went in line or after they went in line, so that they do very much the same as what Jean told me that Donna Danette did, is they actually staged the people in groups with time so that people weren't all congregating. And what I suggested to Andrew is that he reinforces that as much as these kids probably want to all get together and celebrate, that they're told, no, you can't go to the local watering hole and everybody have a big party, that you should leave and go your way and protect yourself. Now, I don't know that on top of that, there's another thing that's going on, is that the school is having a plant sale, which I said is not something that we're involved with at all, because they're going to sell their plants online, give people a pickup time, have the plant with their name outside on a table, and no one's going to even see anybody, and there's no money exchanging hands, and just one car is going to come and pick up a plant. And I said, that doesn't affect, there are no Board of Health regulations that cover that. But what are your thoughts about the graduation, Herb and Lee?
Andrew, could you make it work that way?
We can make it work that way. The other thing that we had in mind is that we might do sort of a drive-in movie theater set up out in our far field. And we could have the name of graduates and the names announced on a loudspeaker, as we usually do. But everyone would remain in their cars at that time, keeping distance. And we would instruct people either to stay in their.
How would they get their diploma?
Well, we can either call them up as Dick and I had discussed, one at a time, have Steve step back, have the student come on up, pick up their diploma and leave, wipe down the surfaces, and then repeat. Or if that is not acceptable to the Board of Health, we could also mail the diploma.
How many students are involved, Andrew?
Our class is about 80. We have about 30 students, day, homestay, and boarding, who are still local, including 2 still in the dormitories in the senior class.
So this is going to be for 30 students.
Yes.
So is that correct? That just 30?
We only have 30 students who are still local. We do not anticipate that any of our international students who have already gone home will be willing or able to come back at this time.
So you would just mail them their diploma?
Yes. We'd like them the opportunity to at least be recognized, even if it's in a drive-in movie theater sort of a way, with people in their cars, windows down and masks on. But we don't want anybody coming in physical contact.
This seems like if as long as you manage the fact that the exuberance that kids may have, if you can manage that, doesn't sound very different than what we sanctioned at the Church of Christ at Easter time. 30 people is not, 30 cars is not many cars. What are you,
No,
Lee,
and we've
what,
got,
what do you,
It sounds very manageable.
Okay. We also will have our faculty present in their cars. Obviously, that's much easier to manage when with your blessing, but I don't want you to drive by the field on a Saturday morning and say, Andrew said there were going to be 30 people here. Why are there 75 cars? That would be why. We'd like them to stand and be recognized in front of the faculty if possible. We are open to ticketing the event or limiting entrance to the event to make sure that the student population stays down.
yeah, you could end up if a student brought 4 cars, all of a sudden this thing starts to really grow.
And that we will not allow.
I'm sorry, Andrew, I missed your comment.
Oh, so number of cars, we would want to limit to 1 vehicle per student and family. 2, if there's a split custody situation and the parents have not been living with each other and are social distancing from each other. But we're not going to allow a tremendous crowd of people. And then we also would like to have the faculty come in their cars as well.
Mm. Are you going to film this to send it to the international students?
We would like to. We'd also like to announce the names of the international students, even though they won't be present. And
Yeah.
do the class roll call.
And you can control entry to the field?
Yes.
And so you would spread out the cars and you would ensure that people did not get out of their cars,
Yes.
other than to come up to get the diploma.
Correct.
You'd set up speakers, I assume, so that people could hear.
Either speakers or low power FM broadcast, again, like a drive-in. So people
Got
could
it.
tune in on their.
Yeah. Yes, understand. I sort
You
of
may-
like the idea.
I support it. Lee, what are you thinking? Maybe we lost Lee.
Graduating from high school is a big deal. So if it can be done safely and orderly and the way Andrew is describing, I could support that.
And I do too. So if that, and given that Lee is not here, then we're saying we're supporting it.
I appreciate your support, both of you.
So now with that, let's move right into Granby. And that didn't make it. Oh, that's right. That was gonna, we said we'd fit it into other. And I think that's kind of the same thing, Herb, that my only concern is that if you've got 300 cars at the Granby event, that they really try to, what Al was presenting to us was that they were going to basically get themselves lined up inside the parking lot and move through. But I would just recommend there that they do put groups. That's going to be a lot of people to try to control in one place.
What's the number in the graduating class at Granby?
56.
Okay, so it's not that enormous. And hum, 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 hum. So maybe there's a limit on the number of cars per student. So maybe it's more than one and less than 4, maybe it's 2 or 3. And so we're dealing with 100 to 150 cars. And is that something that could be reasonably controlled? I hear somebody's making a comment, but I can't understand it.
No, I couldn't hear it either, and it wasn't me. Now, Al, weren't you the one that was the kind of the champion for this?
So I think we're talking about a couple different things. First of all, I know that the school is looking at some different options for graduation, and I believe one is similar to what McDuffie had suggested. What I forwarded to you, Dick, and to the board was the school initially was planning on, the high school was initially planning on doing like a teacher parade, like East Meadow did. But in the planning of that, had kind of switched gears to more of a reverse parade, where all the teachers, like you said, would line up in the parking lot, significantly socially distanced, and that the students and their parents would come drive through. There'd be no contact. There would be no contact. There'd be no exchanging of anything. It would just be seeing each other, saying hello, and keeping it moving. And we've had the last meeting that we had. Was the focus of it. So right now, that's the best information I have for you. It sounds very similar to what other things that are being done. With the size of that parking lot, I don't see any reason why the teachers couldn't be very far apart, and it shouldn't be an issue. But I just wanted to make sure that the board was aware of it. That's the plan right now. And so we were looking to see if there was any issue that the board had or any suggestions. But again, this was more of a reverse parade to say hello between the students and the teachers, and not specifically related to graduation.
Not specific. That's right. It wasn't specifically related. So this is, in essence, it should be much easier, less complex, less a problem to direct this.
I can tell you, Herb, from the police department standpoint, much more so, because we call those parades when people are coming on the street, but the streets are open, and people are walking to the edge of the road. So we would much rather this situation from a public safety standpoint, and we realize that we just have to think about the public health standpoint.
Right.
Make sure we were talking to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, my issue with the public health, the two parts, the actual parade and the teachers, it seems like a great idea. My concern is that unlike we had with Donna Danette, where the kids were basically under the control of the parents. Here you're gonna, if you do take 1 or 2 or 300 students and put them in a group waiting to go in line, and then when they break up, they end up at Cindy's or at the Dufresne's, then how do you deal with that as compared with the way that Donna Danette did it, that said, let's try to keep it so it is in some way controlled.
But Dick, on social media, people could arrange a party in Dufresne's tonight or tomorrow or the next day. So I'm not sure that's really the issue.
You know, honestly, I think that I agree with Herb. Your concern, Dick, is not. I just don't know that we can really totally, make some sort of prophylactic issue for everything in the future. Graduation time's a scary time for kids and families and police officers and towns. So I don't think that's going to change. That's not new. That's not new to COVID, the COVID-19 situation. But if something came up afterwards where there was a gathering that was, not safe or not healthy, then we would deal with it. We would deal with it as your agents.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. How about if you look at the mustering of the parade, that is somewhat in our control, because they are all in that parking lot. How do you not make any attempt at, say, either one class at a time or something, or one grade at a time, or just let it go and say it's going to be uncontrolled?
Well, no, I think that's a great point, Dick. And there was some, if I remember correctly, there was some brief conversation about maybe trying to put them in time slots by grade. Again, it was a conversation that went from being, a traditional, drive around parade to this. That was brought up and suggested, and I can certainly forward that back to that group that would be a preferred method. And quite frankly, from our perspective, from public safety, we'd rather not have, the entirety of what could possibly be there. If we can break it up into more controllable groups, well, that'd be great. So we're on the same page there, and I'll definitely suggest that back to that planning group.
I'm definitely leaning to where Herb is going. I'm looking at my granddaughter, who's young. She's only 7, but this isolation is not a good thing for these kids. And if we can support something that at least lets them see some other kids, it's a good thing.
Sure.
And I think something to add too, Dick, is that the senior class and maybe a few juniors are driving. Other than that, parents are going to have to be involved to bring these kids, 7th through 10th. They're going to need their parents to give them a ride anyway.
Yeah.
So we will have some adults. I mean, and hey, let's face it, some adults are worse than kids.
Yeah. So are we, Lee and Herb, are we letting this be that we're gonna let Al be the conduit, that he goes back to them and says that the board's supporting it? We want to make sure that the social distancing takes care of, and that he's going to go after the thing and not let it get crazy on the beginning part of it. Is that where the board is staying?
I would agree.
Sounds good.
Okay, so that is good. So that is, other than a note that we just received, that I guess we should put it in other right now, and that's from Chris Martin. Gene sent this out. I don't know if Lee and Herb, have you seen this about our budget?
I saw that, yes.
Yes.
And Gene has offered to it looks like Chris is looking for a 2% reduction and then a 5% reduction. And Gene has offered to take a cut at it. Is that what we would like Gene to do? What I'd like her to do.
That would be a great start.
Yes.
Okay.
So with that, it is 7:15. I have a person waiting, and it looks like it's Bert Green. I'm gonna let her in. And
You've got Bob Stover at 7:15 as well.
yeah, and that's what Bert is, it's for Bert Green.
Okay,
And I'm here.
Oh, you are here.
Yes.
So Bob is there, and I'm not sure. I'm guessing that Bert tried to get in. I just thought that I let her in on, and I'm looking, in fact, it says that Bert Green is with us. But I do not, I don't hear her. And so have I inadvertently shut everybody off?
I'm
no,
here.
I can hear.
I'm here.
Okay.
I'm here.
And Bob, you're still here?
Yep.
So even though it tells me that Bert is here, I don't see her. So go ahead, Bob, you're on.
Okay, thank you so much. We are dealing with the comments that were made with the about the plan submitted on Friday, and we are also expanding our scope of options to explore the possibility of installing a leach field to replace the leach field that was failed by the Title V behind the garage, and to see if that would be a superior option to trying to connect to the existing leach trenches and D-boxes for the house. So that will consist of completing a soil evaluation that was started on behalf of the Title V exam and included with the Title V exam that found a water table at 69 inches. So we would do another soil evaluation pit and conduct a percolation test and see where that got us. One question in our minds is that the code in its list of types of establishments doesn't include a garage like this one, or any garage for that matter. I've studied that list of establishments and the design flow stipulated for each type of establishment. For example, a single-family residence is 110 per bedroom and with a minimum of 330 gallons per day. So we're looking for something like that that would be suitable for this garage. And the closest thing that I see is in the list, there's various camps. One of them is a day camp with a toilet and sink. And they say that should be designed at 10 gallons per day per person. And so that would raise the question, well, how many persons would be using this garage? Now, it's a 4-bedroom house, and in Granby, you add the 5th bedroom, so to speak, and that would be the equivalent of a house that could, and a septic field that could handle 10 people, a 5-bedroom house. So I'm thinking that we could take that 10 gallons per day per person times 10 to size some kind of soil absorption system that would then be installed using the existing septic tank that's in the ground now behind the garage.
So what
Bob,
would, go ahead.
this is Herb.
Yeah.
I was always mystified. You know, I'm a rookie at this, but I was always mystified why that wasn't the very first option to consider here, rather than the complex issue that we've looked at with the designs. So just making a comment, that's all.
Yes, and that has been my inclination from day one as well. Other people have been contributing their thinking, and some were concerned that they might be put in a position of having to build a super large leach field for this garage, and that worry caused them to look for other options, including converting the septic tank or hooking into the existing leach field serving the house. So
But
that's
when
my understanding.
When I first talked to Greg, my first thought was, okay, we put in, this is Bert, by the way, Bob, is that we put in, you know, we put in the homeowner, Herb, I don't think I know you, but I know
Hello,
everybody.
how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Excellent. Thank you.
We have all this new pragmatics with Zoom meetings. That was my first thought, is to just redo that. And it was Greg who told me that that would be prohibitively expensive.
Uh-huh.
I don't know why. I mean, again, this is not my area of expertise.
So Bob, let's go back. Certainly if you said, gee, I'm gonna put in a leach field for 10 gallons a day, that would be a crazy thing. And I know you're not doing that,
Right.
but in the days of long ago, we used to have some minimum size systems, and, you know, getting in the ground and, you know, digging, putting a leach field in that's 5 by 5 is it kind of a lot of work and with not much bang for that buck. What are you thinking? I know you said multiply, you know, 10 gallons a day times, what did you say, 10 people?
Yes.
So you're saying 100 gallons a day? And from my standpoint, that's, as long as you didn't end up with something that's tiny, 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 that seems like a reasonable kind of output. That basically what it's saying is, instead of a deep system that's sitting there that got everybody into trouble because the bottom's too low, having a shallower one that is, it certainly gets rid of electricity. It gets rid of,
It's rid of a lot of stuff.
there's a whole bunch of things that disappear when you do that. A whole bunch of things.
So Dick, my question is from or Bob, from a state standard perspective, is there a minimum size SAS as there is a minimum number of bedrooms allowed in a state house to be constructed? You know what I mean?
Yes, I know what you mean. And this chart that I referenced earlier, it gives some types of establishments minimum, and others it does not. And this camp that I referred to has no minimum. But I certainly agree with Dick. If you're going to do this, you're not going to put in a 5 by 5 system. If it could be something like 12 by 35 or something along those lines, that would seem worth the effort to me. But of course, I would welcome your opinions too.
Certainly, when you start looking at system, that's a pretty big system. I'd have to look back. I think our old rules were probably like that the minimum bed size was 400 square feet or something. You know, I'm probably at a spot that I should say I'm, you know, I've
Is
been
it possible for you to
potentially-
get back to Bob with the minimum size?
Well, Bob, I'm guessing a system like that is more than a couple hundred gallons a day.
It's 220, but of course I'm assuming a rate of 20 as a perk rate, which I'm doing that to be conservative, to assume the worst case scenario, and I would guess it would be a faster perk rate than that.
Yeah, that's what I was. Guys, just to give them something to work in that, you know, something that if you're looking for a couple 100 gallons a day, Bob, you said, again, I think that's a pretty big system that you were just floating out there, but you said that is
Correct.
that is a couple 100 gallons, huh? More than that?
Yeah, I think it ended up in the vicinity of 220 actually. Well, I see here, I've in my pencil calculations, it resulted in 190 square feet. So that actually could be satisfied by a 12 by 16 bed. And so somewhere between 12 by 16 and 12 by 30 seems reasonable to me. And perhaps 12 by 30 is too big.
I would, if you were just kicking around numbers like, you know, gee, let's do this for a couple 100 gallons a day.
Mm-hmm.
That would seem like it's more than anybody would ever use on that
Yeah, Dick,
thing.
you've been
And
in the
it's
garage
a
several
system-
times.
Yeah, and it would be, if you're getting down to a system that's looking at a couple 100 square feet for a little place like that, I don't know, Herb and Lee, for me, that seems reasonable.
If in fact
Yeah.
this would work, it just obviates so many complications that we've been trying to think through. If this worked and the size were 12 by 16, gosh, what a nice resolution to the problem. A nice resolution, a clean resolution to the problem.
The question is, Bob, do you think, let's assume that the water table really is actually, you should be able to take the water table that's been established. If I don't know how deep the tank is, but it sure means though that we ought to be trying to stay away from a pump. So if you're,
Oh,
I
absolutely.
think
Yeah.
first
Oh, yeah,
we start by calling.
that's part of the reason of going
We
this way.
start by calling it a repair. By calling a repair, that gets you at only a 3-foot separation. And we ought to try to make that work. Because this is, to miss it by a few inches is crazy, crazy.
Yeah.
So what you're gonna need to know though, is that if you're gonna go with our regulations, if you're just wing it before, take some rough ideas. If you're gonna need that 1-foot separation, then you need, according to code, the member of the Board of Health has to be either a soil evaluator, or you've got to get another soil evaluator to actually do interesting. There has already
To represent
been
the board.
You've got, Bert, was Sheehan the guy that was in there that did this water table evaluation?
Yes.
So you would have
Yes,
to
he
get a
was.
second soil evaluator. Yeah, so Bob, are you a
Okay.
soil evaluator?
Happy to do that.
So what would
Yes.
happen is that would get us through the state requirement that we would end up saying that Sheehan was the board's soil evaluator. And you would be the owner's evaluator. That gets us through, and that fixes the request for the 3-foot separation instead of 4.
Yes.
So we could do that.
Should it come to that?
At this point, we're not acting other than to say that we're gonna wait for you to do this next step? Is that what you're asking for?
Can I ask a
Well,
question?
we will, yeah. The next
Can I
step,
ask
as
a
I said,
question?
will be that
This may be,
we'll schedule a soil evaluation with you.
Wait. But Bert's sitting there. to
who are
get
you
in.
speaking to, Bob?
Bert has a question.
I have a question. Do
Sure,
we
go
need
ahead,
another
Bert.
perk test done? Do we need another perk
Yes.
test done?
In my understanding,
Okay. And
yes.
Dick, is that
Yes,
done with
we
you?
need a perk rate.
No.
And that still be done
So
in
Bob
May?
would, the Lee witnesses the repair perk test. So that would be that Bob would have to schedule that with Lee and get done. So it
Right.
has to be a perk test and a water table evaluation. And it sounds, before we close here, we're saying that a couple gallons a day is what we're gonna allow for a design as urban. Lee, is that what we're saying?
Yes, that's my understanding.
What did you say? A couple gallons a day? You mean that's
A couple
what the
hundred.
actual would? Oh, a couple hundred.
That-
Yeah. I didn't understand when you said a couple
Yeah.
a day, but a couple hundred gallons. Yes.
Okay, so that gets us, so we have an action. You know that we're gonna use Shan's water table evaluation, other one. Bob, if yours is way different than that, then we're in a bind. But if it's essentially the same, we've got the boards, and with Lee there with you, so you're gonna do the perk test, and we're saying a design for 200 gallons a day, and that sounds like you're in a thing that's in the neighborhood likely of a 10 by 20 bed or something, or 12 by whatever it is, 15 by 15, a little bit.
Sounds like a
Is that
plan.
correct? Okay.
Correct.
Have a good evening. We've got our last person
Gentlemen,
Thank you.
thank you for your
Thank you so
time.
much.
is on. Okay.
Thank
Have a
you,
good
Bert.
night.
Nice to meet you,
Bob
Bert.
I'm
and
gonna
Bert.
sign off now. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Now
night.
I
Don't
did
know how to
let
shut you
somebody
off.
in,
Here
and
it is.
I can probably shut you off.
Okay.
Okay, we have Mr. Pasquini.
Yeah,
Can you hear us?
I can hear you. Yeah. Can you hear me?
Okay, I can, and Lee and Herb, can you hear?
Yes. Sure.
Yes.
Okay. We asked you, Gary, we asked you to come in. Yeah, you're not really in, but to visit with you, because it's been a very, very long time since you worked in our town.
Yeah.
And when we have installers that are essentially new, we just want to talk to them for a
Okay.
few minutes and to to see basically that we all feel good about each other. And this particular case, wondering in the years that you've been not working in the town, do you have licenses anyplace else?
Yeah, Belchertown, Westfield, Southampton, Holyoke, Southwick.
Okay, are they active licenses right now?
Yeah, I got 2 foundations going in Belchertown. I'm doing 2 systems there. Westfield's active. We just actually Agawam. I just did one a couple months ago in Agawam. Yeah, they're all active.
Okay, how many systems do you put in a year typically?
Well, it all depends. Some we do sewer lines. Some around here are city sewer, but maybe a dozen maybe a dozen to 20, probably
Okay.
somewhere in that area.
Yeah. What kind of equipment do you have?
We have a 315 excavator, skid steers, dozer, trucks, 10-wheelers, triaxles.
Ah.
Yeah.
So some equipment for sure.
Yeah, you don't remember
when
us? We
you
used to,
put in a system
yeah,
a long time ago.
yeah. When we did? I
You
can't-
know, but when you put in, when you're actually these days, are
Yeah.
you on the job? Are you the crew chief when you
I'm the
you
guy. I'm
put
not
the
Gary. I'm
systems
his,
in?
I'm not Gary. I'm his son. I'm a vice president. I'm half owner of the company.
Oh, okay.
It's just the 2 of us. That's the only 2 guys that do the work. Just me and him.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm always there and he's always there. Yeah.
one of
If I,
the okay. One of the questions that I always ask everybody
Hmm.
is if you start in on a job and you get into the ground and find out what you're seeing in the ground isn't what it says on the drawings.
Yeah.
What do you do?
Well, you've got to call the engineer and the Board of Health if it's not the same as what's on the plan.
That's the right answer. That's for sure.
That's for sure.
What are Lee and Herb? What do you have for questions and thoughts?
But I mean, but there again, if the thing's gonna vary, I mean, that's the other reason why you guys do a strip inspection too. If it doesn't, then you can come out and look. So I mean, that covers, I mean, most engineers got to come out and look at it, you know what I mean? So they would see it too, you know? And if it wasn't what they wanted, then we'd have a problem, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, and it turns out that if things don't go in the way that they say they're supposed to go in,
Yeah.
you're the guy with the license. The engineer's got a stamp, but
Yeah.
you're the license to put it in. So when things don't go right, it's not a good thing for the guy with the license. So what we all want to do is make sure it does go right. And then when
Yeah.
things happen, you want us to be the guys that are right with you saying, everybody knew what was going on and we all are in it together.
Yeah, absolutely.
Herb, and Lee, what do you have to say?
As long
Sign
as
him up.
those 2 guys are gonna be doing all the work and they are aware that we require a subgrade with the engineer, I can't foresee we're gonna stub our toe on this one.
I don't either. I'm okay. I'm okay for sure.
Yep.
With this. And
I would agree.
and I think we've got guys that are more than capable of doing a great job.
Oh, yeah.
So where is this job?
South Street, for Steve Foster. Neil Jackson designed it. We've done a lot with Neil too. So if you have any questions, Neil can tell you about how we do things. We did a
Okay.
bunch in Belchertown.
Is
with
it a
Neil.
fill job or is it a fill
It is a
job?
fill job. Yeah, it's fill. It's wet. Got to pour ballast on top of the tank. Got to move the tank away from the house quite a ways. It's It's a good sized job.
Okay, okay, so you definitely, on South Street, one of the things that you should be watching for right now is 2 weeks ago, we had a problem that we did water tables based on colors, and we went in and did the strip in the water table, the physical water table, even without extra rain, was 2 feet higher than the models.
Wow.
And so it was a big surprise for us. Down the road on Morgan Street, again, a couple weeks ago, we went in and saw a water table was up 6 or 8 inches above the model. So you're in a spot that you really, really want to be aware that stuff, for some reason, isn't necessarily what you think you're going to get into. So just watch for it.
Okay. Okay, I can do
So,
that.
especially if you're going to be working near it, be aware that you might have to make the call saying, this isn't what it's supposed to be.
Okay.
So I guess we're done.
Okay.
We're all set, and you've already paid for
We did, yeah.
you've given Jean all the stuff she needs.
I believe he has, yep.
So Jean,
Yes.
you can,
Yep.
Jean, are you still on? So we're at a spot that.
I am.
You can just sign the license.
Yep.
So,
So with that,
And do you want, Adam, do you want me to mail it to you, or did you want to pick it up?
no, you can mail it, that's fine. Do you have the address is on the check if you have
Okay.
a copy?
All right, I will do that.
Go to the garage. So does the
Is
town
it
of Granby
90
require?
Service Star Way?
Yes, 90 Service Star Industrial Way, Westfield.
Okay, thank you.
so you were just gonna ask a question.
Yeah, do you guys, does Granby require like the Board of Health to come out and do a bottom of hole inspection? So I
Yes.
know if you got a
Yes.
call? Okay, all right. Because everybody's different. Belchertown doesn't, some do, some don't, It's all different. So I will get a hold
So
of
you would be
guys.
calling Lee.
Okay,
Okay, that's fine. We know how to get a hold of you. Yeah,
are we finished?
Okay,
I think so.
Jean, are we finished?
Just one more thing, the meeting
Okay.
minutes. Meeting minutes.
Oh, we have another one besides that. I'm okay with the minutes. Now,
We have the meeting
what we
minutes.
No, we have to say what date they are for the last meeting.
April 28th. April 28th, yes. Can you hear me?
I was okay
I
with it.
think I made comments.
Yeah, I
Hello?
can.
I made some,
Yes.
Okay.
So Herb made comments and I put comments on top of his. So those are the
Right.
minutes, right? And I'm
Correct.
okay with that. Herb, Lee,
Yes.
yep,
okay. The other, I had talked to Chris Martin about the mosquito control district.
Okay, I'm all set.
And he said that yes, well said. Thank you.
Okay.
Have a good night.
You too.
Okay. And he said that the best way to deal with this is for us to get an appointment with the selectmen on their meeting on the 18th. So next Monday. He was gonna put us on the agenda and tell us when would we be there. Are we going to, Herb and Lee, are you guys planning to be at that meeting? It'll be a Zoom meet, well, it's not
what's
Zoom,
the,
it's something else.
Okay.
But you're just
Yeah, it's gonna
informing
be
me
some
of it,
virtual
so no,
platform.
I had.
Hang on, I couldn't understand.
I said you were just informing me of the meeting, so no, I had not planned for it.
Okay. I thought, well, obviously it didn't go out. I thought I tried to send it out to everybody saying it was happening, but what would happen is we would get put on the agenda. Gene would have to post the meeting, so he's got to do this by, if the meeting is on Monday, Gene, then we have to know by Thursday, right?
Friday.
Are you
I
there,
would have
Jean?
to post it by Friday. Can
So-
you hear
and
me?
you're on vacation next week. I can.
Yes, I can
So
post it
you would-
on
you would-
Friday. I will be here.
Okay. And my understanding is that we can take the minutes, we can get a copy of the selectmen's minutes and put them as our minutes, as long as the minutes were taken. So that you don't have to be involved with the meeting, Jane.
Okay.
So I'll have to get after Chris Martin on meeting at the 18th. Okay, I will get after him. So is that
Okay.
it?
As an aside,
That's it.
I think the quality
ahead, Herb.
of the audio and I think the quality of the audio and video for this meeting was not good. So I think if we have another meeting and it starts off with this poor quality, we need to try it again. Recycle, recall in, and see if we can establish better connections. This was really not good.
Yeah, I agree, and I keep getting these flashes saying that our internet connection is faulty. So that's probably what's happening. I don't know if I can completely recycle. If we probably can individually go in and out, but I think I can't close the meeting and restart it. I'll find out how to do that.
Well, I think that would be excellent because this really was a trial.
It was, I agree.
Okay,
It wasn't good.
thank you.
Okay, everybody, good night.